The most shocking part of my new book about the hidden history of the war on voting is the story of RedShift, how Republicans are using voter suppression to basically win the White House, win the Senate, and how they're holding power doing this. It's an amazing story. Check it out. Leave your comments, ding the bell, share it with your friends. Thank you. It is the 11th of February, and therefore my new book, The Hidden History of the War on Voting, Who Stole Your Vote and How to Get It Back, is out. And I wanted to tell you the most explosive stuff in the book. In fact, basically one large story from it. There's a lot of stuff. I mean, in the book, we go all the way back to the Constitutional Convention. We explain the Three-Fifths Compromise. We explain the Electoral College and how it came about and all that kind of wonky stuff. But I think the red-hot stuff is this. Let me just share with you 4 sentences from the book. This is from page 92. If you got your copy today, today is the day that if you bought it through the mail, it's getting delivered. And, if you're going to a store, you can go pick it up. This is from page 92, top of the page. In the 2016 election, the exit polls showed Hillary Clinton carrying Florida, 47 to 46%. There's some fractions in there, but I'm not going to recite them because it gets confusing. 47 to 46%, although the, quote, actual, end quote, counted vote had Trump winning by 49 to 47%. Trump gained 2.5 percentage points somehow, magically. In North Carolina, exit polls showed Clinton winning 48 to 46%. But the votes that were counted turned out with Trump's 49 to Clinton's 46%, a redshift of 5.9 percentage points for the GOP. Pennsylvania's exit poll showed that Clinton won 50.5% to Trump's 46.1%. But when eligible votes were counted, in quotes, Trump carried the state 48.8% to Clinton's 47.6%, a redshift of 5.6 percentage points. In Wisconsin, it was Clinton beating Trump in the exit polls 48 to 44%. Yeah, Clinton actually won Wisconsin. But the so-called real count, Scott Walker's real count, put Trump over the top at 48 to 47%, with a redshift of 5.1 percentage points. Now, why do we call it redshift? Because whenever we see a disparity between the exit polls and what the state reports as the actual count, that disparity, that shift, almost always favors Republicans. And this whole redshift phenomena almost exclusively happens in red states. Now, back in the day, in the early 2000s when we saw this, in the 2000 election, for example, the exit polls showed that Al Gore won Florida massively, tens of thousands of votes. It wasn't until a year or so later that we discovered that Jeb Bush had taken a felon list from Texas, from George Bush, the governor of Texas, and compared it with his voters list in Florida, where Jeb Bush was governor, and thrown all those people off the Florida voting rolls who had names similar to the Texas felons. And because Hispanics derive all their names from one language, Spanish, and the majority of African Americans derive all their last names from one language, English, you have a relatively small name pool for Hispanics and African Americans in the United States, whereas Caucasians come from, language groups including Slavic and Russian and Scandinavian and Greek and Polish and, it's all over the map. So there's huge diversity among white names. So they didn't get bounced off the voting rolls in Florida, but black people and Hispanic people sure did. Now, in some states, they actually count provisional ballots. But in most red states, they don't, unless the election is contested. So if you're given a provisional ballot in any of these red states, your vote never gets counted. In 2004, going into the, at the end of the election, John Kerry, lost by, as I recall, around 160,000 votes. There were about that many provisional ballots that literally were never opened. John Edwards, on this program in 2004, was yelling and screaming about it, saying we need to have an audit of the vote in Ohio. Those provisional ballots are never counted. Well, why did those people get provisional ballots? Because they weren't on the voting rolls. Why were they not on the voting rolls? Because the governor of Ohio had thrown them off the voting rolls because they lived in areas that were heavily Democratic, heavily urban, or heavily black, or heavily Hispanic. It's just that simple. our election system has been rigged by the GOP.